Marianne Street.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I rise to speak again to the Tasman District Council Validation and Recovery of Certain Rates Bill. Mr Speaker, I just want to traverse a couple of things that haven't been covered already. But before I do that, I want to acknowledge the speech of the member who has just resumed her seat. I think she does highlight, and did highlight in her speech, some of the critical issues around this particularly vexing bill. I don't wish to relitigate that material, but there are some points that I do want to make about this bill. Mr Speaker, it's now a truism to say that none of us enjoys bringing retrospective legislation of this sort before the House. And I'm one of those who has declared myself to be pathologically averse to such legislation. But I do want to explain for a moment about why the committee arrived at the position it did and why I personally have come to the point of supporting this piece of legislation. Living and working as I do in the Nelson area, part of the Tasman District Council catchment covers the Nelson electorate, and so I have a lot to do with the Tasman District Council and the Mayor and councillors there. Although the particular areas of concern are in my colleague, the Honourable Damien O'Connor's electorate of West Coast Tasman. But this controversy around this particular situation arose when the council designated Tata Beach, which is a beautiful area along with Liger Bay, as one of its urban drainage areas, which was one of 16 settlements which have to pay towards stormwater works around the wider Tasman district. And the Tata Beach ratepayers, Tata Beach and Liger Bay ratepayers only discovered the change when their rates bills soared by some hundreds of dollars a year. Bob Schmucke, to whom the ratepayers, well, certainly the Tasman District Council owes a debt, really, is the person who brought forward the error that TDC, Tasman District Council, had made and took the case to the Ombudsman, and he was successful in that effort. He was successful. But at that time, then, the Tasman District Council said that it was going to then take the situation to Parliament to remedy. The Tasman District Council's CEO at the time was reported to say, that's Paul Wiley, was reported to have said, and this is in a report that was in the Nelson Mail on the 18th of February 2013, so that is precisely, almost to the day, a year ago, and here we are with the second reading. He was reported to say that the costs of going through a court process, which we believe we would win, are, excuse this as a quotation, a hell of a lot more than the quite simple expedient of going along to Parliament saying, fix this technicality with some retrospective legislation, and that's what we are doing. And that was a comment attributed to Paul Wiley, the former CEO of the Tasman District Council. He said he didn't know how much the legislation would cost. On my experience in raising other local bills, I understand there is a charge by the Office of the Clerk of the House of some $2,000. And so certainly that would be all that the Tasman District Council would have to pay as far as Parliament is concerned. But I must just register that it is somewhat of a cavalier attitude towards what the taxpayers pay to have this House go through all of the stages, the first reading, the second reading that we're up to now, the committee stages, the reporting back, the third stage and the final royal assent. So there is a great deal of expense actually in bringing a local bill to Parliament, and that falls on all taxpayers. So I wanted to make that point because I was a bit concerned that there seemed to be a slightly cavalier attitude within the TDC to this. However, I am supporting the bill, and I want to explain briefly why I'm doing that. It is to do with the way the Tasman District Council exercises its ability to rate ratepayers. And I support the way they do it. They made a mistake in this instance, and it would have been a costly mistake to them had it not been for this legislation before the House. But the principle behind this that I support is that community assets must be paid for by all members of the community for the sake of the community, whether or not one uses those assets. Bob Schmucki's particular case, which gained a lot of sympathy, and certainly from me as well, was that he wasn't even hooked up to the stormwater system. He wasn't hooked up to it. It didn't impact on his property, and here he was with these additional rates that he had not been advised about. But, Mr. Speaker, in the end, I came down on the view that the good of the community is borne most equitably by all of the members of the community. I may not use the Nelson Library, I in fact do, but I may not use it, or I may not use the Riverside swimming pool in Nelson. But I am very pleased that the facility is there for the benefit of all who live in Nelson. And so the same thing applies. When it comes to drainage systems and urban drainage systems, they in the end provide a collective benefit. Should they have been paid for by the 3 houses in this case that were linked up to this stormwater drain, they would not have been affordable. And so by spreading the cost, there is an important piece of infrastructure in place that benefits the whole community, in principle. And it is that principle that I support, and which has which has brought me to the position of, again reluctantly, but persuasively, to support this piece of legislation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Maggie Berry.